So, Elsmarie, I was actually grown up in a very small town. It's HMT Township, Pinjore, near Himachal Pradesh. And I'm the single child of my parents. My upbringing was I belong to a very middle class family, I would say. And my father was engineer and my mother was a homemaker. So my upbringing was very different because I was a single child. Entire attention of my mother, I would say, was always on me. And because I was raised in a township setup, so in township every neighbor is curious about you, what you do, and they care for you like a true relative. So in my street, there were 7, 8 kids who were elder to me, and I got very much inspired from them because they were doing great in their studies. And many of them are doctors, engineers, lawyers. I mean, they are from all diverse areas of field, and I'm very much inspired from them. And for my education, because HMT Township was little far from Chandigarh, I would say 30 kilometers, and every day I used to go by bus for 2 hours. It was a 2 hours journey. When I was in 10th standard, till 10th standard it was manageable because school hours and then additional 2 extras in transportation I used to spend. But after 10th, one has to go for extra classes. There were coaching and all, so I usually start from my home 5 a.m. and usually my timings were from 5 a.m. to 7 p.m. and you can imagine 14 hours out of home. It was bit difficult for me during that time because there were no opportunities in the township and one has to go for the study to Chandigarh, which was a nearby city, I would say. And then of course, in plus 2, my I was aspiring for a MBBS degree, and I tried my best, but I couldn't make it. And it actually didn't affect my goals and all, because getting MBBS degree is not the everything, which my father and my mother told me. You should aspire high. And that was the time when I decided to pursue the research career, because I used to visit Punjab University professors, their kids, and I was very much inculcated. When I joined the college, I remember my teacher, she was from zoology, and she was very much inculcating the young minds towards research. Although at graduation level, that research level was very naive, I would say. It was at a college level, and I was very active during college activities. I was very much part of many societies which were formed. I was environmentalist also. I was very much active. I did vermicomposting, I did solid waste management. I was doing a lot of work for the environmental society. So that was a trigger time I got inspired towards environment. Then in MSc field, when it was post graduation time, I decided to pursue environmental sciences. I decided to pursue MSc in environmental sciences because I was very much inspired about the environmental problems. So there was no solution for that, and I wanted to do something very different. When others were selecting for biotechnology, for biochemistry, or for chemistry, I decided to go for environmental sciences. And another crunch was in environmental sciences curriculum. Students were taught all the subjects: physics, chemistry, maths, biology, zoology. So I wanted to I wanted to have a zest of all the fields because I wanted to be interdisciplinary, and that is today's demand also. And I believe that was the best decision I have taken in my life, to be on an interdisciplinary side. And then during MSc, I cleared my CSR JRF in third semester only. And no, net was cleared in third semester. I think after completing MSc, I cleared my JRF exam. In between, I was lecturer also. I was taking classes for, I was teaching postgraduate students. And when you teach students, your concepts are cleared, right? And that was the trigger I could, clear my JRF exam. And this is actually a good big message to other aspirants also. If you teach somebody, then your concepts are clear. So sometimes it happens, it helped for me. So then I taught for 3 years, I would say. So first year I really enjoyed when I was teaching students. I really enjoyed. I put my best efforts in making notes. Second year it was like something I'm repeating again and again. And third year it gave me a feeling there is nothing, new in my life. I mean, I'm just vomiting out every day. So sorry, I'm using these words, but this was my thought process. Maybe it was very early career days. And then all of a sudden, a trigger came to my mind. Teaching is not my cup of soup. I can't teach alone. I have to do something which is vibrant, which is, which gives me a thrive or energy so that I can think new and I can do better what I am doing. And suddenly one day I decided and I gave up my job, and I joined CSR Imtech. It's a research institute, very prestigious CSR institute in based out of in Chandigarh. And I joined that institute with high hopes. So my first 6 months were very difficult, very tricky, because people from pure sciences were there. Their concepts were much better than me. I'm having no shyness in accepting that, because I came from an interdisciplinary area where I was having knowledge of every field, but I'm not the master of one field. But this became my strength, and I opted for a research problem, which was completely interdisciplinary. So I started working on developing environmental sensors for detection of pesticides. I selected a unique class of pesticides, and I developed almost all variety of essays which I could do in 4 or 5 years of time. I have worked on fluorescence based essays, I've worked on optical based, I've worked on electrochemical based sensors. And my initial years of PhD were quite struggling, because it was highly interdisciplinary. Involves a lot of chemistry, a lot of biology, a lot of physics, a lot of instrumentation. So I made good friends. They were my coffee friends, and I would say they were my buddies who could help me, even at every odd hours. I started making friends from all diverse fields, and I started gaining knowledge also from them, which I try to translate in my uh, PhD work. And fortunately, my I got selected for MIT TR35 award. I was a sole woman that year, so they gave me a sole woman tag. So so among 20 among 19 males, I was only one female. And my work was highly appreciated, and it gives you a pride moment also when MIT platform, they recognize your work. And then I got other prestigious accolades also, like DST FICCI Innovation Award. I went to I3 Regional Chemistry Division Award. So many awards I got, and I got cash awards as well. So I was identified as Inc. Fellow, I was identified as Google Fellow. So all these, accolades, they raised my morale, and I was on a totally different world, I would say. I was on AIR, I was on BBC, I was on Famina, I was on Elector, I was on many magazines. So I was everywhere. So, but one thing happened. Once I was talking to one journalist, I don't want to name the platform, but just a simple in just simple conversation, I made one statement: the sensors which I developed, it can detect cardiac arrest or heart related problems as well. And my this statement was modified in a way that the news which appear was totally different. It says the sensors which I have developed can detect heart attack, and there was no name of the work which I have done for the pesticides. And my mentor, my PhD supervisor, and other people in the lab, they got offended. Why such statement? I took this as a challenge, and that day I decided I will develop a sensor which will detect cardiac markers. And I have spent almost 10 years of my research in cardiac marker detection. So this was my PhD journey, and I was also fortunate enough to join Institute of Nanoscience and Nanotechnology immediately the day I submitted my thesis. So that was another landmark in my career, I would say, and I'm very grateful to Professor A.K. Ganguly. He was the former director, and when he interviewed, he said he's having only one table and chair in the institute. Otherwise, there is nothing in the institute. So I took up that challenge to establish everything, to buy a table and chair for me and to establish a big lab for my lab work. So that was, I spent a considerable time over there, almost 5 years. I would also like to name my PhD supervisor, Professor C. Raman Suri. He is being inspiring always. He is being supporting me always. He is the one who helped me in my good times and bad times. He is even today also he is mentoring me in many aspects of my life. So at Institute of Nanoscience and Technology, which I joined immediately after my PhD, there I pursued my career as an independent scientist. I found my group, I mentored graduates, undergraduates, postgraduates, and even school kids also. So I got that opportunity, and sometimes it's really fun to, do science, to do experiments with kids, because their perspective is totally different. The questions they ask, they are really brainstorming. And the way they think and they address the problem, it was amazing. And sometimes it was inspirational to my PhD fellows and postgraduates students as well. So, in between, I got married. So, I tried my best to find a suitable match near to my institute where I was the central government permanent employee. But by God grace, I couldn't find a match. So, I had to marry a boy who is based out of Mumbai. So, my husband is based out of Mumbai. He's banker by profession and he doesn't understand science. So, when we first met, so I was telling him that I'm working on, graphene. So he used a very different slang, graphene. I mean, it was like, I thought that time, immediately that moment, I thought, is he the right person to whom I'm going to marry? He doesn't understand what I do. But then my other side of mind said, no, 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 he's the right person. The person whom I'm marrying should not understand my profession. He should understand me. So when I told my husband, I got a paper in scientific report, Nature Scientific Report. So surprisingly, he asked me, how much money you got? Oh my God. That day I was like, seriously, he doesn't know. But then I, explained him to, what exactly the impact factors are. I explained my family. My mother also knows what an impact factor is. She knows three impact factor or five impact factor, what is the impact factor and how much celebration would be. So this is how, how you change your family, you tune your family as per your, work demands. So then, after marriage, I had to give up my job, and I joined a big tech private lab. It's a industry based out of Bangalore. That was a major shift, I would say, in my career from academics to industry. It was a very tough decision, very very tough decision. But I took that challenge, and again, I mean, it was very nice experience. I wanted to have my own company, but I thought, if you want to do something, you should first understand. So, with that thought, actually, I joined, Big Tech Labs Private Limited. Then I got opportunity to work with University of Mumbai also, and it was very tough time, COVID time. I was pregnant also. So at Mumbai University, I pursued my career to different level. There were students, bubbling students. They were curious about nanotechnology, and particularly the students, they were from interdisciplinary field. When I used to take classes, there were students from physics, chemistry, biology, maths. So again, my class lectures were also very much interdisciplinary, and it was a wonderful experience to work with them. Then again, so I would say, I think too much, because it's a job of a scientist to think too much. And one day I was sitting, and I was just penning down with my students, how many sensors I have developed in my entire career, how many essays I have developed in the career. So there were many. I don't want to give the number. There were many. And one single question. my student asked, "Ma'am, is any of this technology commercialized?" And it gave me a big jerk. No. My inner self said no. Why no? Then I again penned down what are the reasons why I'm not able to commercialize my technology. I don't want to get into those reasons, but there were certainly administrative issues also, and your perspective also. I won't say that in academics you can't commercialize the technology. Certainly you can, but there are certain, challenges which one can face, and innovation is something which the the marketers who are already in the market, they are not going to accept a new technology until and unless there is a solid background. And then Corona, COVID 19, the pandemic time, it hit us badly. That was the time when people understood that there is a need of innovative systems through which we can detect, coronavirus. So it gave me a trigger again. And I then moved to Transasia Biomedicals, and I'm working there as a senior manager, and we are into developing reagents, assays, and again, I'm working on innovative diagnostics. So this is how where I am right now. Yeah, of course. So my journey was a very curvy journey. So, first challenge I faced among my family was giving up a government job and joining the corporate world. So, my family was not ready for that, and in fact, my mentors were also bit hesitant why I should be taking that decision. But I have always, I have always gone with the flow, and I have taken up the opportunity, the first opportunity which comes to my path, although I was not having any option as well, because I got married. I have to shift from, Chandigarh to Mumbai. So that was the major hurdle. So it's with the brain set, we have to change that government job is not everything. Time is changing in private world, in corporate world also there are opportunities. And the company like Transasia, where I am right now, they are investing a lot of time and money in R&D, and D, and particularly after co-pandemic time and our Prime Minister Modi ji under Atmanirbhar Bharat. So a lot of companies are coming up. So that is the first challenge when I had to take a decision: academia versus industry. Of course, I have undergone through some health issues also. So I will open up. Like, I'm having a problem of hemorrhagia, so extreme bleeding in menses. And in fact, I have raised this point earlier as well. So there must be some policy where some relaxation to a female candidate who is suffering from such a problem should be given some relaxation. So I don't want to name places, but there are certain places where I have worked upon, and there was no space for women to, even to, take some rest for some time, even if it's a hard time. So I don't want to name those places, but there must be some policy, some norms should be set up that there should be a dedicated space at a particular place where a woman can stay for some time during periods or during pregnancy or during any health trauma, I would say. And it not women, it is applicable to men as well. I'm not gender biased, but yes, women has to undergo through tough times of life. And I am one of the victim, I would say, since college, and even now also I'm having that issue that I need a day break time during my menstruation time. So that was another challenge. And then when you are into research, so many times it happens that you have to set up your experiments at a very late time point in the night. So I was in Chandigarh, and I remember, I'm talking about December time, when there is a fog, there's extreme winter. So I was not having support that somebody can take me, pick me up from the institute and drop me to my accommodation. So that is another thing I would like to emphasize here. So most of the women and the girls, either they don't put up strengthy or extensive experiments because of the time constraints. And if there are time constraints, if there are time sensitive experiments going on, then some support should be given to female candidate so that they feel secure and they can reach home on time. And of course, see, a lady has to undergo many ups and downs in life when you get married, when you have baby. So there are many things. So family support is very important, I would say. I am the blessed one who got the support, but yes, your life is changed. And also I have observed, like, our families should be sensitized enough about the work what we do. So at research institutions, if we have an open day and family members are invited, and at least it can be showcased to our families, so that they can be also sensitized that our work demands, time and dedication. And one more aspect I would like to emphasize, although government is taking a lot of efforts now, to raise the scholarship amount for JRF and SRF students, but if you compare a PhD holder person versus an MBA who is a professional person, the salary what we get in a faculty position or in any other position what we do, the kind of job we get after, PhD, there is a huge difference. Why there is such a big gap between an MBA passed out and a PhD holder, when a PhD holder is spending more time, a PhD holder is investing more years rather than an MBA profession. I'm not here to do a comparison, but there must be some parity. So when I'm interviewing people for my team or for the research projects, I'm not able to find good candidates. It's very difficult to find good candidates because slowly what I have seen, people are losing students are losing interest in research jobs because they are not highly paid. This is something in their mind. PhD is so time consuming, why to invest so much time? We will pick up easy courses where we will be getting better money. So some initiative is required to, reduce disparity. And these kind of thoughts were revolving around my mind also, but I was more motivated towards research side, so it didn't bother me much, but it can bother the young generation, who knows. Yeah, that's my. Yeah, so Elsmari, I think mentoring is very important, particularly in early career of any candidate. I remember when I wrote my first publication. So I was not knowing how to write a paper. See, it's an art, and I have seen, if you are not getting that proper, guidance. I've seen people, students, still they are not able to write the papers. But I remember my mentor, Professor Siraman Suri. He explained me each and every aspect. He asked me to read 200 papers, and once you read 200 papers, you will come to know that art. So mentoring is always important in life, but in initial career, mentoring is very important. See, if you compare Indian PhD scholars versus foreign PhD scholars, so I got some opportunity to work at Northwestern University Chicago also. So the big difference I have seen there, here my mentor used to spend 5 to 6 hours in the lab. He was always with us. Whereas when I was in US, the mentor used to schedule one meeting in 10 days or a week's time or even 15 days time. So, so more the time the mentor will spend with the researcher, better results or new experimentation will come up, which is lacking in outside India. But unfortunately, students are not understanding and they are going behind. I'm not saying they should not go to abroad. They must go to abroad, but this is the basic difference which I have seen. So mentoring is very important in designing experiments, in, in writing projects, in writing proposals. I have learned everything from my mentor, and I have used even a single day. I mean, 5 years if I have spent in my lab for PhD, every day I have learned, and even today also I am learning. So how I implemented when I became the principal investigator, so majority of the time I spend in lab with my students. With female, I am very much sensitive. I'm not biased. I'm not saying that. I always try to keep my team balanced. We should be having balanced women and male ratio. But I'm a bit sensitive about women if they are having certain, cyclic issues, or 1 or 2 days they are not well. So we plan experiments in a way, we plan work in a way so that their mind should not be, struggling. So if they are relaxed, they can do, review of literature or some other data interpretation or something in those 2 days, but rest 28 days they should be on toes. So this way. And also I'm very much personal towards female candidates. I'm interested about their personal life, their family life. I usually build, family network with them, because sometimes certain decisions, suppose if I'm sending my teammate or my student to some other city or some other country for some work, sometimes their families are not ready, but on my trust they are willing to, send. So we have to sensitize their families as well. So it's very, I always, get very much personalized with them, particularly when family front is there. So these are some baby steps I'm trying to, take to bring more women to research and field. And one solid point I would say, I'm not saying boys are not doing great in research, but I have seen women are doing very much great in science, because women are blessed with a very good sense of concentration, which men they don't have. Women are having very much patience. They can do n number of experiments repeatedly. They can do one thing which male don't do. So this is our nature, I would say. We are blessed with that nature, and it is very useful in research field. As I was mentioning, like I mentored many kids also. So I have seen students struggling to pick up PhD problem, or which guide they should pick up. After all, it's a matter of 3 to 5 years. Their entire career is dependent on that. So I've done a lot of career counseling on charitable basis, I would say. Um, so whenever a student comes to me, student has no idea what to do, which guide to say pick up, and which problem to choose. I always say, choose a problem in which 40 to 50% work is done, so that you have enough review of literature. And if you could contribute 10 or 20% to the existing knowledge, you are through, and you are leaving rest 30 or 40% for others to cite your work, because there will be other fellow students also which will read your work and cite your work. So I always advise students to, look for those problems where at least you get some review of literature, because innovation is a risky business in India. It's everywhere. It's quite risky. There are 50-50% chances you may succeed, you may fail. Well, yeah. So there are a couple of advices I would say. So one thing is, understanding the problem correctly is sometimes, difficult to solve it. So understanding is very important. I will humbly accept that I have done lot of execution of experiments during my early career. There was less planning. What I have seen in other countries like US or in Europe, people plan a lot and they execute less. In India, it's ulta. We execute a lot, we plan less. So definitely, one advice I would like to give myself, that there is a thorough understanding required before, planning any experiment. And also I was very in initial days I was very shy or reserved person. And one message I would like to give myself, that one should showcase the idea, the work which you do at every possible platform, whether it's a conference, whether it's a workshop, whether it's paper. I mean, if you are not able to present your work, what you are doing in the lab, then in scientific world it's difficult for you to, survive. So the research which remains in lab, which lies in lab, and it doesn't go to common minds, it has no meaning. So that is another advice I would give to, my younger self. Yes, I believe, if something I'm doing and it is giving me happiness, and I can sleep properly with a deep thought that my day has been utilized in a good way, the way I want. I mean, whether I want to spend time with my students or I want to be with my family. If I am happy, what I am doing, I am satisfied of being what I am. I think that is the best way of sustainable life.